Good evening. This is The Point of News. My name is Yvonne Okwara Matole. Thank you for joining us tonight.
My name is John Alanam. Welcome to KTN Weekend Prime, The Point of News, where tonight's discussion will be centered on something that has been somewhat of a national debate for close to 60 days now, Yvonne.
Yes, and indeed for close to 2 decades now. How many commissions have we had that are fighting corruption? Here we are again. This is what took place in Parliament that led to a number of the issues we have now. 124 MPs voted in favor of removal of Mumo Matemu and his deputy Irene Kano. The commission now has no commissioners.
And the prelude to this is it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy somewhat for the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, given its past with commissioners.
Right.
And it just feels like something is not working there in the way that it should, Yvonne.
Absolutely.
You'll be having a discussion on that as well.
Yes, we will be discussing that, the fate of EACC, because the journey has begun all over again for new commissioners. How different will it be this time? We've had John Harunwao, we've had Aaron Ringera, we've had PLO Lumumba, we've had Mumo Matemu. Who's next? And what work do they have ahead of them? Obviously, a lot. So we asked this interesting question. I just need to get to this tweet. Is a commission still a commission? Or can it function if there are no commissioners?
Yeah.
At Can Access says that is next to impossible. It's like going to church and there is no priest, no ushers, and no choir.
Interesting.
Send us your thoughts on that one. The hashtag, of course, is Checkpoint, but we also have other stories of the day.
Of course, we've got lots of stories, including a very strange one from Mombasa. That won't be in our highlights, but look out for it. These are the highlights tonight on KTN Weekend Prime.
Let the government convince the people that they are ready to protect them from the outside enemy.
The church weighs in on deadly revenge attacks in northern Kenya.
The incidents of extrajudicial killings, we don't know who's doing them. We don't know whether it's the government doing or Al-Shabaab doing.
Watu wanachukuliwa katika mji wa Wajir, mji wa Garissa, na watu wasiojulikana ambao hawavai uniform ya serikali.
And northeastern leaders are up in arms over alleged abductions.
Can the EACC still deliver on Kenya's war on graft?
We are demanding efficiency at the ferry.
Watu rekebishie feri, manake zina matatizo, mara huwa zinakwama na zinatia wananchi uoga sana na ni hatari.
And how safe are our ferries? William Silla is our sign language interpreter tonight. Thank you for joining us. As the nation comes to terms with the recent massacre in Nadome, observers are asking, did the church abort a revenge attack planned following the Nadome massacre?
A dialogue meeting between a section of the clergy and leaders from warring communities may have diffused another massacre as government retreated to its usual tough talk.
The Nadome massacre is a massacre that exposed the country's weakest link in securing the wild northwest Kenya. But as government offered its usual tough talk, a meeting between the clergy in the North Rift and leaders from warring communities revealed of a possible revenge bloodbath in the offing. Despite deep-seated suspicions among the leaders, another bloodletting was abetted.
That meeting of Sunday prevented another revenge which was going to come. It was being arranged by one group. And when we pleaded the leaders to stop revenge for the time being, no message reached.
With gun-trotting warriors conducting raids at will and a government using the same tactic of calling for a disarmament exercise, the church is warning that the state is missing the plot as the disarmament drive will not work in the banditry-prone region.
Like the guns, they should be returned as soon as possible. And as soon as possible means today, tonight.
Like when I asked them, give me this gun. You know, Bishop, we can't give you, this is our food. Then I say, suppose we give you food. Can you say yes? If you have the food, I will give it. I will hand over. But you will hand over to the church and the Red Cross, not the government. They are very specific.
Given the absence of the state in these regions, government and its officials are perceived as enemies rather than as savior. Possession of illegal guns for them is a lifestyle to guard, shield and protect their wealth, livestock.
We have a saying, when you remove a knife from the child, you give something to hold. So the government remove the guns, what do they have to give something, the food.
The vast and harsh terrain punctuating Turkana, Baringo, Samburu and West Pokot counties has alienated the counties from development. Here the rule of the jungle thrives, coupled by a culture where warriors are glorified by the number of their kills. To reverse this culture, the bishop says, it's not only the government's prerogative, but the church as well.
In this area in particular where people were killed, there is not a single church there. Not even any. So people are living in their own world. And here we are attacking them. But when you look at the background, how do you talk to the people who has no idea of God? So killing has no effect, no conscience at all.
Samogina, KTN.
Now to a story and developments in a story of disappearances that we at KTN have been following for some time now. Northeastern leaders are challenging security agencies to stop the alleged abduction of youth in the region. The leaders say they have received reports from over 10 families recently that their kin are missing under unclear circumstances, even as the government seeks to weed out Al-Shabaab militants. KTN's Abiagina has just returned from Wajir with details of this story.
Cases of missing persons are now becoming a source of concern for families in northern Kenya. Local leaders say they continue to receive reports of alleged abductions, and now leaders from the region, along with various lobby groups, are taking a swipe at the government for orchestrating these alleged abductions.
The incidents of extrajudicial killings, we don't know who's doing them. We don't know whether it's the government doing or Al-Shabaab doing.
The big question for the national government is, if it can't control cattle rustling, will it really do for terrorism, which is a global issue? That is the big question. If our own security officers are massacred by cattle rustlers, you can imagine.
Watu wanachukuliwa katika mji wa Wajir, mji ya Garissa, na watu wasiojulikana ambao hawavai uniform ya serikali.
The leaders have accused the state of roping in innocent youth in the ongoing operations to root out suspected terrorists. The Independent Policing Oversight Authority has condemned the alleged abductions. Insecurity in northern Kenya has been a key challenge, which has not only impacted learning, but has slowed down economic development in the vast region.
Whenever there are insecurity issues, Kenyan Somalis pay the price. ID is a form of disability in northern Kenya.
The county's top leadership says security agencies have overseen credible swoops to track down suspected youth believed to be part of the terror cells operating in the region.
Magavanas wote wameandika mkataba ya kusaidia security ya mkoa hii wa Kaskazini Mashariki.
Without security, there is nothing that will achieve.
The leaders further called for a lifting of the ongoing 6-to-6 curfew that was put in place following the terror attack witnessed at the Garissa University that resulted in deaths of over 147 students killed by Al-Shabaab terrorists.
What will a curfew do at night when Wagala was attacked during the day? Garissa was attacked during the day. So what is the rationale of a curfew?
Ukishikwa unalipa 5,000 usiku. Asubuhi ukishikwa, wale akina mama wanaenda kwa biashara yao saa 12 mapema, wanalipa 1,000. Hiyo ni haki kweli?
The government has been looking to bolster security in the north. Attempts to urge area residents to work with security agencies is slowly gaining acceptance. Abiagina, KTN.
Interesting development there, very serious one with regard to the war on terror, one that we've been following and will continue to follow as those unexplained disappearances continue across the country.
Quite sad indeed. Something else we've been following for quite some time is the war on graft and where that is taking us. So We've been talking about this commission that doesn't have commissioners, but it's important for us to see how this all began, particularly with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Now, you'll see it was not a very smooth ride right from the beginning. So let's take you through the formation of the EACC and in particular the commissioners. So this is what happened in 2011. The panel that was tasked with finding candidates shortlisted them for the position of chair and commissioners, and this was sent to Parliament by President Mwai Kibaki. Remember, it was a coalition government. So it was Mwai Kibaki and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Of course, it went to the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee that then tabled a report to the House rejecting Mumo Matemu. And this is what they said. They said he lacks passion, drive, and interest to chair the commission. Now, lots of heated debate that we saw and lots of accusations and allegations against Mumo Matemu himself. Now, these are some of the allegations that were raised against Mumo Matemu that you see here. First, that he failed to collect 2.4 billion shillings while he was the head of litigation at the Kenya Revenue Authority. And then other allegations surfaced as to some of his activities while he was at AFC, that's the Agricultural Finance Corporation. Gitobu Manyara, who was in Parliament at the time, raised certain allegations saying he did some funny business with some shady businessmen. Essentially, what he was accused of doing was allowing some of these businessmen to borrow loans, to take loans from AFC between 18 and around 24 million, and then those loans would be mysteriously written off. These loans that were written off amounted to about 5 billion shillings. And of course, the debate as to whether indeed he was fit and suitable for the position was what many pundits said did not happen, but it was rather a heated debate about passion. Listen to this when the former MP at the time, is now the late Otieno Kajwang, had to say about passion. You will all remember this statement. Listen to this.
Mr. Speaker, passion can only be determined once somebody has been given a job to do.
Mr. Speaker, these candidates, as good as they are, as competent as they are, they lack something, Mr. Speaker, which is necessary if this country is going to win the war against corruption. Passion for the job. There is no passionometer.
A passion of a woman is never seen during the day, Mr. Speaker. And if they have interest in seeing the passion of these women, give them this work and let the women do the work, and you will see the passion that they have.
So after all that fiery debate, it went down to a vote, and this is how the vote went. 50 MPs voted down that report that was done by the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, in effect approving the nominees. In case you think this is a whopping win for Mumo Matemu at the time, it wasn't. 50 MPs voted down the report, 49 voted in favor. That tells you a very, very thin margin for him, and there was not much faith and trust in him. Of course, after that happened, the nominees, the appointment of the nominees was gazetted, and there are the gazette numbers. So it looked like things were good, right? Now, perhaps not. A Nakuru NGO, that's the Trusted Society of Human Rights Alliance, challenged Mumo Matemu's appointment in court. The three-judge bench agreed with the Nakuru NGO, and they applied what is known as the rationality test. This is what it meant, that the court had the power to step in and investigate whether the process of recruitment and the individuals met the constitutional requirements. The court determined that it did not, and therefore they said, Mumo Matemu, no, for the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. These court battles, remember, are happening at the time when the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission for 2 years has no substantive chair. Mumo Matemu went back to court. He appealed the decision. The Court of Appeal agreed with him and set aside the court verdict because they agreed with Mumo Matemu that the NGO had no locus standi to institute the petition, and they said that all the laws were duly followed in the appointment of Mumo Matemu. He was then subsequently sworn in August of 2013. Now, things seemed to be really good for a year. The commission continued to work. Just about a year after he was sworn in, September 2014, a secret letter is written by Commissioners Irene Kano and Professor Jane Onsongo to the President on Mumo Matemu. It started out elaborating all of their achievements without Mumo Matemu while he was busy fighting his court battles. Then came the bombshell. They started by saying that the chair lacked the desire to fight corruption and that he lacked vision. again, this issue of desire and passion and the will to fight corruption coming up. And in some of those allegations that they made against Mumo Matemu, they said he did not exercise leadership and judgment in directing the commission. I'm quoting their letter here. They said he has a leadership style of divide and rule, and the interesting one was that he declared in public that he joined the commission only to make money and not to fight corruption. I hosted Mumo Matemu on this issue. He said all was well. This was all resolved. And indeed, January 2015, that letter was rescinded. The commissioner said they had relied on malicious reports. All was well. They kissed and made up. We were made to believe that things were going well. Remember, this is January this year. Just 3 months later, more controversy from the Ethics Anti-Corruption Commission. On the 9th of March, a letter was written by the chair of the commission, Mumo Matemu, to the deputy CEO, Michael Mubea. This is what they said, that intelligence reaching the commission suggested that their integrity challenges surrounding the discharge of his duties. They said he had brought ridicule to the commission. He was interdicted for 30 days pending investigation by an interagency committee. We thought, okay, fighting corruption from within, good job. A day later, what happens? CEO Halake Wako defies this interdiction of his deputy. This is what he said in the letter. I'm not aware of the alleged intelligence. I'm surprised that that intelligence would not pass through me going to the commission. He also said that the chair was out of line and that he was to give direction on such matters and not issue appointment, suspension, interdiction, or even dismissal letters to the staff. And in fact, he went on to direct Michael Mubea to report back to duty the next day. He was reinstated. Again, we were told all was well. They were getting back to normal and that this would be an internal matter that would be resolved. So you can take a look at all of these things. But whilst the rest of the country was all thinking there is something wrong within the EACC, so did one lawyer, George Oriaro. He agreed with the rest of Kenyans and he relied heavily on those letters, the back and forth that was taking place between the commissioners and the secretariat in his petition to Parliament, where he asked for the removal of Kano and Matemu. Again, this was a matter that was being looked at by the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, but just before that could happen, on the 31st of March, Professor Jane Onsongo resigned, and she said she did not believe that the commission was capable of fighting the numerous mega corruption scandals that were before it. Now, at this point, we started to hear allegations of pressure to resign from the commissioners, and this was from Irene Kano, who claimed that she had been offered an ambassadorial post to resign. Listen to what she had to say on the 1st of April.
I wish to state that there's a brazen attempt to force my resignation and disbandment of the commission by a clique which is a clear subversion of the Constitution.
Aha, and there are those investigations. So what happened is we have this probe that is ongoing. And on April the 1st, just before, of course, she resigned, the members of parliament, 124 of them, voted in favor of their removal. There were 180 MPs who were in session at the time, 124 vote. So, of course, the legal processes took their course. They sent this petition to the president, who then put together a commission to look into the conduct of the commissioners as required by law. But, of course, before that could happen, we had Irene Kano, who resigned on April the 30th. She said it was to spare her family the anguish of a judicial process that would cause them unimaginable pain. She continued to reiterate that her conscience was clear. Before the commission could begin its work, this was the final hammer in the coffin. 12th of May, Mumo Matemu resigned. He said he was subordinating his personal rights and interests to the greater public good in the fight against corruption. Of course, after that, the AG, Githu Muigai, said the Justice Jonathan Havelock Committee then stands dissolved because there are no commissioners. But there's a question that lingers. So what happens with these allegations of impropriety, abuse of office, and lack of fighting corruption now that they've resigned? That's one question. Second question is, who is fighting corruption? corruption, and have they been fighting corruption since 2011? That is the question we will be handling with Edwin Sifuna, Gunjiri Wambugu, and Barak Muluka.
Of course, another question we'll be looking into is who is going to fight corruption going forward now that there are no commissioners.
The process will start again, John. But if this is anything to go by...
Well, there's 11 days left until the 60-day ultimatum lapses. 11 days.
Yeah.
We can't do it in 11 days.
There you go.
Anyhow, the past really is prelude with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. And here's another story where the past seems to be proving prelude politically, especially in the Rift Valley after the election and seeming rifts between leaders there. Deputy President William Ruto says leaders in the Jubilee coalition will remain united. The Deputy President is accusing some leaders of preaching propaganda aimed at causing disunity in the political arena. Ruto says some leaders are out to divide Kenyans through divisive politics. The Deputy President, who was speaking in Larry constituency, Kiambu County, is asking leaders to shun politics aimed at dividing Kenyans and instead concentrate on preaching peace and unity.
Ile makelele mnasikia watu wakipiga makelele ni mateke ya mwisho ya watu ambao wako barabara ya kupotea. Unajua hawa watu wengi walifaidika na siasa ya kugawanya wananchi. Wakafaidika na siasa ya kugombanisha watu. Wakafaidika na siasa ya ukabila. Wakafaidika na siasa ya kutenganisha watu, nyinyi ni wa kutoka sehemu hii, nyinyi ni wa kutoka sehemu ile. Sasa mnasikia hiyo makelele yote ni kwa sababu imefika siku ya mwisho. Siasa hiyo ya kugawanya wananchi, siasa ya kupiganisha watu, siasa ya nduru tupu na maneno fitina. Hiyo siasa tumesema hatutaipatia nafasi katika serikali ya Jubilee. Na wakati walikuwa wanangojea tugawane, sasa tumesema hata ile muungano ilikuweko tutaunganisha sasa iwe moja. Bas, sasa unaona ngoma yao imepotea. Na mnasikia mnaona wanajaza maneno kwa magazeti, wanapiga nduru kila mahali kwa sababu the writing is on the wall for them. That is the end.
Let's move to Mombasa now, where residents are raising concerns over the safety of ferry travels. Yesterday, a ferry drifted offshore due to a technical failure, leaving passengers stranded for hours. And just days ago, marine pilots raised the alarm after the construction of a building that is blocking the lights used to aid in navigation. Sharon Momanyi now reports on the rocky situation at the ferry station.
Panic gripped the passengers of the ferry MV Kwale after it stalled and was washed off its course by heavy currents Saturday evening. For over 2 hours, the passengers were stranded in the vessel, which drifted about 300 meters into the ocean, causing fear among the almost 1,400 people in the ferry. They wore floaters for safety in case of sinking. Luckily, the ferry hit a rock which brought it to a halt close to the beach, allowing the passengers to alight.
Pika pale kwa mawe, ikangonga mawe, watu wanawake wakaanza kupiga nduru, wamama wanalia. Mimi nikasema acha tu nikae tu hapa, ndio naweza kuruka kwa maji niumie mahali.
The ferry was disembarked from the rock at about 2 a.m. Sunday, close to 10 hours since it stalled. It is only then that vehicle owners were able to get them. Speaking to KTN on phone, the MD of Kenya Ferry, Musa Hassan Musa, confirmed that services at the ferry station are back to normal. Just days ago, he himself was blamed for growing inefficiencies at the station.
Planning and organizing imemshinda.
The ferry is said to have stalled due to failure of a generator used to work its engine. This could be as a result of failure to conduct planned servicing on the ferries, as has been a concern. And that is not the only problem. Marine pilots have been complaining of constructions in front of the lights at the port aimed at helping the pilots navigate. The lights, usually switching between red and green in color, aid the pilots not to hit rocks and to navigate through safe areas. Since they are blocking, they say they now have to use their judgment during navigation, which can be a deadly affair.
We have actually managed to actually safely navigate the vessels into the harbor because of the experienced pilots. But assuming there is a vessel, especially the smaller vessels which can be allowed, they have what we call the pilotage exemption license. There is that danger actually that they can actually run aground.
Our biggest worry as a country is the risk and exposure that it gives us as a country, because then you are exposing the shoreline, we are exposing our reef to accidents because those ships can get grounded.
Further, what are the emergency strategies and facilities at the ferry station? For the entire time the passengers were stranded mid-ocean, no one went to their rescue.
Kenya hii mtu anaweza kufa, hakuja kusaidiwa kama ashakufa tayari.
MV Kwale, which had a technical problem, is one of the two newest ones at the Likoni crossing channel. Another one, MV Harambee, is reported to also be faulty. There is a total of 5 ferries, but for the longest time, passengers have complained of delays at the port, with losses realized due to constant heavy traffic, delays and inconveniences at the stations.
We are demanding efficiency at the ferry. We are demanding, we are not begging.
And more than just inconveniences at the station, the state of the vessels and inefficiencies at the port now pose danger to the lives of thousands of passengers using the crossing lines daily, calling for urgent intervention. Sharma Manyi, KTN.
Now, it's less than a week to that historic beatification ceremony of Sister Irene Nyadha Stefani in Nyeri County, and KTN's Carol Nderi is keeping tabs on the progress of the preparations for that big series of days.
As with any event that draws huge crowds, disaster preparedness is one of the key considerations. The 3-day beatification event is no exception, and the Kenya Red Cross Society says it is ready for any eventuality. During celebrations in Nyeri town to mark its 50th anniversary, more than 13,000 Kenya Red Cross Society members from 617 school clubs participated in a walk to commemorate the 50 years of its existence. Central Regional Coordinator David Kariuki announced that the society will have 100 volunteers will serve throughout the 3 days, especially on crowd control. The society will mobilize vehicles and ambulances.
They will also be working very closely with the Ministry of Health. We have had a meeting with the director.
As preparations for the beatification continue, over 700 choir members are putting final touches to the hymns that will make the event colorful. The more than 700 choir members have been practicing at Bishop Gatimungandu Girls School and the Catholic Secretariat. The songs are in different languages to reflect the backgrounds of the visitors from all over the world. The practice session was led by Mwalimu Thomas Wesonga from the Presidential Music Commission.
Our interest as people from professionals from the Music Commission to work with them so that what they produce is musical and also polished.
They have been practicing so well. We are having the final touches.
The Poncilator of the course of the beatification from the Vatican, Gottardo Pascaletti, has confirmed that 300 missionaries from Sister Irene Stefani's hometown in Anfo, Brescia province in Italy, will be coming to see where one of their own served for 15 years from 1915 to 1930 without ever going back home to Italy.
La celebrazione della beatificazione di Suor Irene Stefani.
This beatification says that a holy life is possible even in an ordinary way, in an ordinary everyday life.
The main event will be held at the Dedan Kimathi University on the second day of the ceremony, and the 3.9 million dais is complete for Catholics and non-Catholics alike. In Nyeri, Sister Stefani's ceremony seems to have brought goodies to the small town. What with recarpeted roads and powerful street lighting, the town is also remarkably clean. This again puts Nyeri on the global map. Every year in February, many travel from all over the world to visit Scout leader Lord Baden-Powell's grave. He chose to be buried in Nyeri, and the famous quote, "The nearer to Nyeri, the nearer to bliss," is attributed to him. Final touches to the dais that will hold the main event on the second day, of course, overlooking the beautiful Mount Kenya, and it seems that all is set for the 3-day beatification ceremony. Carol Nderi, KTN, at the Dedan Kimathi University, Nyeri.
So how long does it take to put up 2 floors of a building? Well, in Mombasa, some residents are still trying to figure out what it takes to make 2 stories of a building disappear in less than 12 hours. Residents of Bombolulu in Mombasa woke up to find a building that had 5 floors by the time they went to bed, only having 3 floors this morning. 2 floors are said to have sank overnight. The building was still under construction and there were no casualties in the incident, thankfully. The remaining floors had cracks and some walls had collapsed. The National Construction Authority is blaming the incident on poor workmanship.
Was being developed without any contractor being on site. There was no contractor. 2, there was no registered engineer supervising the structure. 3, there was no registered architect supervising the same. It's a requirement.
Now, have you ever encountered a woman truck driver? Chances are that you haven't. Well, 26-year-old Eunice Mwikali has defied the age-old perception that certain professions are best left to men. Fatma Pole tells her story.
It's about 8 a.m. and in Feather Estate, Nairobi, 26-year-old Eunice Mwikali prepares to leave for work. But Eunice is not your average woman, and the job she does is nowhere close to what will be considered ordinary. Growing up, Eunice was passionate about cars, not just marveling at them, but driving them. Deep inside, she always knew she was born to drive, and not just drive, but be an exceptional driver. Today, Eunice is more confident. That which started as a childhood passion many years ago, she has now turned into an income-generating activity and a satisfying career. What's even better is that she did not just stop at driving small cars. Believe it or not, this big trailer is her toy.
Mi kitu ya kwanza nilianza kuendesha na instructor kagari kadogo, nikaacha, nikaenda FH, nikaacha, nikaenda 10 wheelers, nikaacha, nikakuja kwa trailer. Chenye ilifanya niende nikibadilisha ni kama nikiendesha FH, nikakuwa na hiyo experience ya kama ile gari, nikaa hiyo FH ni ukubwa, mbona nisiendeshe.
Eunice dove deep into a profession heavily dominated by men, but that has never fazed her. She, however, admits that when she started, it wasn't always smooth sailing.
Ni mbaya, ni nzuri. Ni ile tu watu wanashangaa wananiuliza kama mimi ni mwanamke ama mimi ni mwanaume, kitu kayo. Lakini ile uchokozi, ukikaa shosho na wao, hawezi kukuchokoza. Pia hii kazi lazima ukuwe kichwa ngumu na ukuwe shosho na kila mtu ndio uifanye. Ukikuwa tu uko hivi uko mpole nini, huwezi toboa.
She's very aggressive, she's a good lady, and so far so good.
Watching Eunice behind the wheel of this trailer, you can't help but marvel at the ease with which she does it. The excitement on her face is evident despite the fact that this is not a glamorous job, and it has a high potential of getting messy very fast.
Kuna vitu zingine kaa tuseme umepata panja, uwezi shinda ukipigia ati mechanic ya kuje kozi ni panja, uko na kila kitu, uko na spare, uko na kila kitu kwa gari yako. Sasa hiyo siwezi piga ati nikiwa Nyeri nianze kusumbua Jose kuja gari imeharibika na ni panja. Sasa hiyo napaswa mimi mwenyewe nijichenjie kozi niliuliza kazi, yani nikiuliza nilikuwa najua lazima gari pate panja.
Eunice, however, says she's not about to stop in her quest to become the best female truck driver.
Kazi ni kazi. Hakuna ya mwanaume, hakuna ya mwanamke. Yote ni kazi. Kama mimi naweza endesha trailer, mbona yeye asiweze?
Now more than ever, she is determined to run her own truck business and make it easier for the next generation of ladies who hope to venture into this profession.
If you limit yourself to a choice that only seems possible or reasonable, you disconnect yourself from what you truly want. And what Eunice Mwikali has always wanted is to drive big cars and prove that this is not just a man's world. Fatma Pole, KTN.
All right, so we've come to the end of our bulletin. We want to go real quick to your feedback now. Johnny Mutinda says tribalism is the spoon that feeds corruption. It's a big curse. Here's another one. I think you should be doing our super war. Your Twitter handle is at LuaPHK. You say, the shock is that Kenyans don't realize that they give corrupt people 6,600 shillings. He's dividing the 300 billion shillings that's lost by 45 million Kenyans, an average of our census. So that's the amount of money you're losing. Money. Yeah, it's a lot of money to go literally down the drain.
Down the drain. Yeah. James Burrow says Kenyan politicians get into power, steal, and when exposed, they resign. They are then reappointed, and the cycle goes on and on and on. It's a fair point.
Right. At Favorite J says the verbal war on graft is still on, but the real war has never started. Interesting perspectives. Perhaps we're being too pessimistic. Let's wait and see. 11 days to go. Graft countdown. Remember, KTN has been big on the issue of corruption because we believe it's an issue that affects you. 60 days from graft diaries to graft countdown. Now, 60 days the president gave. We're on day 49.
Yep.
Just 11 days to go. 175 names, 14 files from the EACC to the DPP. Can he do what? 160 odd files in the next 11 days?
11 days. Well, that'd be one to watch.
Yeah.
Anyway, KTN will continue with that coverage, as Yvonne mentioned. Draft diaries as well as other kinds of coverage. Look forward to a couple of big features this week. One on land by Zubeda Kananu coming next Saturday, and one tomorrow.
Right.
1 year down the road after the Mpeketoni killings, the Mpeketoni terror attack. Francis Ontomwa went to the ground to speak to the widows about how they are coping. That's coming up tomorrow night on KTN Weekend, on KTN Prime.
That's right. The Unbowed. So you need to look out for that tomorrow. As well as we'll be in Nyeri, so we'll be celebrating something good that's happening for Kenya in the world. Thank you so much for joining us on our bulletin tonight, and we appreciate all your feedback. Have a great week ahead. My name is Yvonne Okwara Matole.
My name is John Allen. William Silla has been our sign language interpreter. Good night and have a great week ahead.